What up, guys? Welcome to the show. This is Devon Johnson, and this is Showtime Forum. It's not a post-game show, but this is one of those shows that we wanted to just get back into the rhythm, guys, of just saying hi, hello. It's been so long since we checked in with you guys, and we wanted to say hi, man. We wanted to check in with you guys, see how everybody was doing out there in Lakerland, and obviously we don't have any new games to talk about, and we don't have anything really that we can talk about futuristically because we don't know what's happening. But before we get into the show, I wanted to just first say, just to everybody out there, just really just wanted you guys to know that we're with you. We miss basketball just as much as you miss basketball, and we do want this to move as quickly as possible. But it would be remiss of us to have that happen without first stopping and acknowledging how serious COVID-19 coronavirus is right now. And if you are in LA or any other city right now in America, I'm imploring you guys, please stay home. The way that we can get this NBA season kicking off quicker is if we all do our part, and that is to stay at home. Of course, doing what you have to do by going to the grocery store if you need to, or of course there's a medical emergency. But the main thing, guys, is let's stay home. And while we're staying home, we're just getting hyped. We're getting ready. We're getting ready because the NBA season, I truly believe, will be back. The Lakers will be in the playoffs. And one of the worst things that could have possibly happened to the league, and one of the best things that could have possibly happened to the Lakers, is they gave LeBron and AD a chance to get healthy again. We were already killing the game with injuries and fatigue, and now you're giving us some time off. And I know LeBron has made some statements. We'll talk about that. Laker Metropolis, what up, what up? Lakers for Life 24/8, good to see you, hello. But I'm really excited about the potential of going into the playoffs. I know, obviously, things are going to be different. In fact, if we're being honest, things will probably not go back to being the same. You're probably going to see a completely different NBA beyond this season, maybe with scheduling or the way that they handle things when it comes to crowds. But in any case, all we want is basketball back. And even if it means we got to watch it without any fans in the arena, we just want to see our teams playing again. And so today's going to be just a quick broadcast. I wanted to kind of check in with you guys. We had some questions on Twitter to ask you guys to check in. We had a couple of things, and one of the topics that I want to talk about are the top 5 games that have happened so far this season. And obviously we were getting to the later end of the season, getting close to preparing for the playoffs. We had already clinched our playoff berth, and we were 49-14. It would have been so good if we could have got that 50th win against the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously that did not happen, losing 104-102 on the last game. It's been exactly 17 days today since we played that game on March 10th back at home versus Brooklyn. And we really don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the season. I mean, we had already rescheduled the Clippers to play them again. We had Houston, we had Denver. We had a pretty weird stretch coming up, and of course we had a 6-game road trip that was coming up as well. All of those things are going to change. I doubt we do any of those things. Anakat Mohan, what's going on? Hope you're safe. We miss basketball. Absolutely. And so, matter of fact, I think it was your question, Anakat. I think we're going to dive into the top 5 games. And so, listen, I want to jump into the very first game here. And that first game, for me, was the one where we knew that we had the Anthony Davis that we deserve. And that was the AD 40-20 game. And I don't know if you guys can remember. It's been so long ago, but it happened way early in the season. But it was one of those games where we just knew that we had somebody different. He was not the same player as anybody else in the league. And there had been a lot of talk about earlier on in that summer when we had made the tremendous trade of getting rid of our young core, of course, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and Lonzo Ball, who have turned out to be terrific in New Orleans. And we had come out of a tumultuous season. We had missed out on our coach. We wanted Tyronn Lue. We thought we were going to get him, didn't get him. Magic blew up in the front office and ended up leaving abruptly. Didn't tell anybody, not even LeBron prior to that. And then it came down to the hirings and firings, and we weren't sure about Rob Pelinka, and we weren't sure if Jeannie Buss was doing the right thing. Kurt Rambis and Linda Rambis, we kept hearing about them inside the front office, but they really weren't talking about things, and it almost felt like we were the laughing stock. And even though we had won a couple of games, even though I'm gonna get to that question, Blake. Even though we had won a couple of games and we had lost the opening night game and things like that, but this statement right here, this 40-20 game that this man put up on that night, that was 40 points, 20 rebounds there, it let us know that we were dealing with a different kind of animal. And the reason why it was so big is because one of the things that we have been hearing over and over and over again was how injury prone that Anthony Davis was. And in fact, he had injured his right shoulder prior to that game, and he was a game time decision. They had to kind of feel him out during shoot around. And he ended up playing. He didn't just end up playing, he ended up putting up 40 and 20, and it set the tone for the rest of the season. Because when we saw that and we realized that the team hadn't even become cohesive yet, they hadn't gelled yet, they hadn't become who we knew they could possibly be yet, that all they had done was kind of get some time in away during the offseason, getting a little work in during preseason, and then of course jumping straight into the season with a brand new roster. We didn't know how things were going to fit. Kuz hadn't come back to the roster yet. He was still hurt off of Team USA, and so things were looking really weird. And Anthony Davis made a statement that really put fear in the rest of the league, because they knew that if he was doing that early, imagine what would happen by the end of the season. And of course, we started seeing that, because he wasn't far off of that point total of 40 points really for the rest of the season. He was in the high 20s, low 30s really for the rest of the season. He even put up a 50-burger later on after that. But that, if I look back at one of the top 5 games that we can look back on and say this is what defined our season, that's the first one that comes to mind. And I don't know if you guys can remember, but the way that we dealt with that game when we won that game, it was a great game. It was an absolute great game. But the way that we dealt with it after the game, if you go back and watch it, everybody was talking about the 40 and 20, but the Lakers were already on to the next game, and it showed you that their mindset was a veteran mindset. They were different. Let me get into this real quick. Blake St. Clair. It's like the quarantine that happened during Space Jam. That was a documentary, right? yeah, it feels like it. Like in Metropolis. How do you feel about the second round of the playoffs being a potential one-game elimination? I don't know. I think for us, when we're talking about what is going to happen, there are so many caveats that go into this. We don't know if it's going to be a one-game elimination. We don't know if fans are going to be there. We don't know any of these things just yet. And it's really speaking to how serious it is. But one thing that is for sure, and that is encouraging for us as fans, is knowing that the players, the owners, the TV sponsors, and really even the coaches and staff, everybody wants to get back to basketball. And when if we go back and remember when COVID was really starting to make its surgence into the United States, there were conversations about possibly shutting down the league. And LeBron said, "Man, I'm not playing in front of no fans." And even still, it feels like players are kind of resistant to that, but they've been without basketball for over 2 weeks now. And it's very obvious that right now they want to get back to basketball, not just because it's an off-season thing, because it's not the off-season, but everybody was getting tuned up for the best NBA playoffs we were going to have in over a decade. You were going to have these monstrous teams. The East was getting good. The West was the most stacked it's ever been. And you're going to see these LA had 2 LA teams. They were getting ready to do battle, hopefully, in the Western Conference Finals. And so there was so much to get ready for and to look forward to. Now everything is kind of simmered down. It's not so much about who's going to meet up with who and any of those things. I think people just want to get back to basketball. I do not believe it's going to be a one-game elimination. And the reason why is because out of everything, the biggest reason for the playoffs from the league standpoint is not the players playing, but it's the revenue. And it's not even from the fans attending the games. Charles Barkley talked about this on Fox Sports 1. But the idea now is that the biggest money for teams comes from TV revenue. Salaries are traditionally set from that. Salary cap is traditionally set from that. And then that's just really where, if you get into the playoffs, you're really making a difference with your team. And with the NBA, they get a huge amount of revenue from the first round of the playoffs all the way through the finals. To cut down a possible 7-game series down to 1 game is something that I think wouldn't work for the owners, and I don't think it's going to work for the players. Just being honest, and this is me just conjecturing. I have no idea what the talks are, but it just feels like the money is going to be the driving force to basketball getting back to normal. And I think they would rather push the season all the way through the summer than to eliminate possibly 7 games in a series for basketball. So Blake St. Clair, if they do play games without the fans, I like the idea of the games being held in team practice facilities. An empty arena would be too weird and costly. It could be, and I'm not sure I'm not even sure what it would look like to do that. But what I do know is, like, as we've been watching a lot of these games, right? We've been watching a lot of these old retro games, watching a lot of Kobe highlights, and one of the clips or the series of memories that I keep seeing that really touches me the most is watching these practices with Team USA. And watching, like, these teams when there was a lockout year and they went and played in the Drew League, or they went and played in Jamal Crawford's league, and just watching the players interact when you don't have the normality of a huge arena, and just watching them in these small gyms, watching them in practice, and the different level of intensity, the different level of focus, the different attention to detail, where it's not about entertainment, it's literally about the skill, mindset, focus on basketball. That gets me excited, because to be honest, if I watch them in practice jerseys, if I watch the Clippers and the Lakers play against each other over a week or 2 weeks time frame, playing 7 games, that would be incredibly entertaining to me. We wouldn't have a whole bunch of TV timeouts. You wouldn't have a whole bunch of random fans doing random things. It would really be focused on basketball. So I'm all for it. But if they do end up playing in an arena, it doesn't bother me at this point. I'm just so thirsty to see the Lakers hang a banner that I don't care how it gets done. I don't care if they go outside and play at Rucker Park. I could care less. They just got to find a way to get these guys back on the court. Of course, when it's safe, but when they do, I want the lights on, I want the ball on the court, and I want to see the best players on the planet playing against each other. All right. Now, with that being said, let me go to my second favorite game real quick. And it was the OT, it was the overtime win versus the Mavs. We remember this game for a couple of reasons. The first was this was the game that Danny Green hit that clutch 3, okay? It was that one where it was like 6.4 seconds left, and this is where Dwight hit that hammer screen that was controversial, and Danny Green pump fakes in the corner and hits the 3 to send it into overtime. But what gets overlooked are 2 things. Number one, Kuzma came back. That was his first game back, and of course it wasn't anything special, but he did make his first comeback, and he was getting integrated back into the lineup. But LeBron put up a triple-double of 39, 12, and 16. Now, remember, just prior to that, we had seen Anthony Davis put up 40 points and 20 rebounds. And on this particular night, LeBron was up at 39, 12, and 16. And you just started thinking about it. Wait, LeBron almost had 20 assists and almost had 40 points. And Anthony Davis had 40 points and 20 rebounds. Like, these 2 people together is a crazy, dangerous prospect. And this is early in the season. And when that happened, when we saw all these things clicking, we saw LeBron distributing, we saw Danny Green hitting clutch 3s like we've known him to do. We're watching the team get synergy. We really started to understand that we were dealing with a different animal with this team. It wasn't just a team that was going to make a playoffs. We saw championship contenders on that floor. And once again, we knew at that point that they weren't even fully ready yet. They still had plenty of things to work through. Obviously, with LeBron going 39, 12, and 16, it should have never even gone to overtime. That's how much work we had to do. But you know, it happened. So I'm really excited. I got really excited when I saw that game because I was like, wow, this team is about something different. And I loved it. And they did it in an unconventional way, being against the Mavs, who really are a playoff contender. No one's expecting them to be a championship contender, but they are a formidable foe. And this is before all the talk about us hitting pansy teams and stuff like that. We were both 3-1. We were both walking into this thing with a little bit of steam, feeling good about ourselves, and we were able to get it done on that 3-game road trip. Laker Metropolis. Let me see this. Anakat Mohan, who do you think the break benefits more, the Lakers or the Clippers? My mindset is obviously the Lakers for me. And the reason why is because their camaraderie started before the basketball court. For the Clippers, their camaraderie started on the basketball court. And so for the Lakers, they are able to handle this even better than most teams because they're still sticking to the foundation and core of their synergy, which is communication. And they talk about the group chat between the team is still active, still going. And, obviously they have a new player with Dion Waiters coming in. So he hasn't had a lot of time to play. So that doesn't work in our favor. And obviously, the Morris twin is over with us as well. But the team still has one thing that the Clippers don't have during this weird point in life, and that's you have LeBron. You have a leader who knows how to keep people together. He has a way of being able to communicate to players that everybody feels important from 1 to 15, and that everybody's included even when they're not in the same house, same gym, and in some instances not even in the same city. And so he's able to do things leadership-wise that I don't think Paul George, I don't think Kawhi Leonard, and just to be honest, I don't even think Doc Rivers can actually do because they just haven't been there before. Let's not forget LeBron's first championship in Miami was a shortened season. So he understands this dynamic different than most, okay? Obviously, there was a season before that with the Spurs. The Spurs had won a championship during a lockout season, I believe in the 90s, 99 or something like that. But that regime wasn't really a Kawhi regime, right? So that Kawhi doesn't have that experience. LeBron has that experience. He knows what it means to win a championship when the season is different than normal. And I really believe that this is going to be the season where LeBron's leadership catapults him to the MVP place. I love what Giannis is doing. I love what he's done with the Bucks, but Giannis hasn't been here before. And this is going to be different territory for Giannis, right? He did all that training, all that work, doing all that stuff, trying to get ready, and as he should have, as a true championship mindset should be, getting ready in the offseason, and now everything has stopped for him, and this is going to be different for him, right? For LeBron, he's navigated weird waters in the NBA before. And so he knows how to kind of get back into things. And he's making statements saying, hey, listen, I know for a fact you can't just jump into the playoffs. You're going to need some time. Well, he's able to say that because he has wisdom and experience underneath his belt. And this is where other teams are going to have really some issues because nobody really has the skill set and the leadership qualities combined in one person. And we have that on our team. So aside from the fact that, the Clippers are going to be able to get healthier, which is what they needed. Paul George needs time to get healthy. Obviously, Kawhi needs time to get healthy. So that's going to benefit them. But the synergy on the court is going to mean more than anything else. Being able to keep that team cohesive and keep them on a roll. And mind you, the last time the Lakers were on the floor, they lost by 2, right? They lost by 2. So the last thing they have in their mouth is a loss, okay? Is a loss. That's not a good taste in the mouth of the Lakers, right? Who are championship contenders trying to get to a place where they lock up that number 1 seed. So everything's going to change. I don't know how it's going to look, but I do believe that for the Lakers, it benefits them more. That's my personal opinion. Laker Metropolis, outside the local dispensary, and they were playing old highlights of Kobe Bryant on their TVs. And think about this, guys. This is really hard for us. But this generation has survived some weird stuff, right? So the last time we had something of this magnitude that almost shut down the nation was September 11th. Our generation has seen that, right? And then we get into this season after having such horrible seasons prior. Kobe dies. We get through that. We get back on a roll again. And now, for the first time in league history, we're in uncharted waters, and we don't know when the season's going to pick back up, how it's going to pick back up, if it does pick back up. If you're reading reports about China and how they're trying to get it back going again, and it's a lot of stumbling and mistakes with them trying to get their league in China back going. Obviously, our brand is stronger and our structure is a little bit better than China's when it comes to our sports foundations, but it's going to be weird. And so right now, the only thing that we can really cling on to are the best moments that we've had. And the last thing that kind of brings Kobe's death and this championship run together is the last time that we won championships was with Kobe Bean Bryant. And we owe so much to him post-death because he's given us so much to ride on right now that keeps our spirits up, keeps our spirits alive. You know how many other teams have no video clips that they can play that are going to bring their city excitement and joy the way that Kobe did for us, Shaq did for us, Magic Johnson did for us, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did for us, Jerry West did for us, and of course Anthony Davis and LeBron have already done this season. We have a vault of highlights that if we just released a clip a day, we'd be good for the next decade. But the truth is, is that Kobe is like the last memory that our generation has. And so you're going to see Kobe everywhere. And part of me is excited because that means Kobe's legacy is living on further and further. And what's funny is normally when a new tragedy comes, people forget the severity of the last tragedy. And somehow LA, you guys, Los Angeles, you have made Kobe Bryant's name bigger than it's ever been before because this we're riding on his shoulders even while the dude's not on earth. That's how powerful that dude is. Blake Sinclair, you know Jack would still find a way into the arena to sit courtside. I believe Jack is probably pulling strings right now trying to get things going. I love him, man. Lifetime Laker fan. Anakam Moham, Danny Green hasn't made a three since that Mavs game. He hasn't been as significant, but Danny Green has had some good games. He's had a couple of he's not even streaky. He just has these pop-up moments like whack-a-mole. He comes up for a moment, then he disappears for a long stretch. So I'm still expecting him to come out swinging. We don't know what's going to happen, but I'm anticipating that he will. Blake Sinclair, break benefits Lakers. They haven't load managed and look tired. Yeah, that Brooklyn game showed a lot. And once again, we were already in talks. If you guys remember the post-game shows we were talking about before, the race was getting to clinching the number one spot so that the Stars could take a break. Obviously, you know, this is not the kind of break that we wanted the Stars to take, but it does benefit the Lakers because once again, they're going to be able to kind of keep going. I think what LeBron is talking about that makes the most sense is being able to have the normal routine of working out with the team, doing practices with the team, even when you're not playing in the game, and he may just do load management. He may have done load management the last 10 games. And him being able to still get those reps in with the team and get that camaraderie and travel with the team and do the normal things, all of that has been broken. So I think a lot of what LeBron is talking about when he says you can't just jump into the playoffs, it's not just about being in shape, it's much more about being in shape, building up camaraderie, getting your momentum back going, and getting the mindset back going. Because this has been a lot. This has been a lot for the team to withstand. You know what I mean? They're on a plane after breaking Kobe's record, and the next morning you're hearing that he died. And you finally make it through that. You find a way to get into a game. We already had to postpone one of the most significant games with the Clippers. That game got pushed out. And then you get past that, and now the virus happens. And I'm almost positive that the rescheduled Clippers game is getting pushed out as well. I don't think we're going to play the Clippers before we get into the playoffs, right? So all of this stuff is having to happen, and you're going to have to come back from that and get your mind back on basketball, calm guys down, because they're going to be excited about getting back on the court again and playing, and you got to calm them back down. Everybody learns their role again. Dion Waiters finds out where he fits, or is he going to sit on the bench? All of these things, right? So they did look tired, but I think a lot of it is going to be about how do we handle that going forward. D, you're the man. D, keep killing it. Thank you so much. Do you think this quarantine helps or hurts Dion Waiters? I think it helps Dion Waiters in this aspect. Part of Dion Waiters' problem wasn't really his play. We've seen some really great clips of Dion Waiters, especially against the Clippers. Defensively, offensively, we know he's a playmaker, he's a go-getter. But a lot of it, to be honest, a lot of the issues with Dion was personal. And nothing makes you face the demons like being forced to stay in a room by yourself. If you ever talk to somebody who's been to a rehab center, I have family members, several, who were either alcoholic or hooked on drugs. And I remember growing up, we were able to visit them while they were at these off the beaten path rehab centers. And they isolate the people not to punish them, but to force them to kind of sit and deal with this issue. And I think for Dion, it's not so much about the drug thing. I mean, the gummy thing. I don't care about that. As much as I care about, is he having time to himself to realize the opportunity that he has? Stop life for a minute. You can't go anywhere. You're not going to the club. You're not going on vacation. You're not calling in sick. You're at home. You're at home, and you're dealing with yourself. And I think this is one of the things that Dwight Howard talked about that he did, was getting isolated, getting all the noise away from him, and sitting down and really taking an inward look about what he's doing and how does he want his legacy to look like. He obviously is a Hall of Famer. Dion Waiters is not a Hall of Famer, but he has an opportunity to make a statement in the league, to have a resurrection in the league, to have a resurgence in his gameplay. He can really make a statement in the playoffs and be able to go and get a contract somewhere else and begin to build his reputation back up as being somebody that can contribute, much like Ron Artest did post the Palace Brawl. And so I'm hoping that this time for him benefits him. Now, obviously, he needs to get in shape. But since he wasn't in shape when he came in anyway, it's not so much of a disadvantage. It just delays that. But I would rather his mind, his mental, as Marshawn Lynch would say, he getting his mental right. If he gets his mental right, then when he gets back into that gym and he's working out, it's a different level of motivation different level of focus, and that's what I'm really hoping happens with Dion. Oh, we're up here. Miro, where's Jesus? Oliver, I don't know who that is. Laker Metropolis. After the Waiters signing, the Lakers were still looking to pursue another shooter. Would that still be a thing, or is it dead in the water when the season returns? You're not going to see any more signings. I think, and I'm not saying that because it's like a rule. I'm saying that because it just, at this point, I think it's just getting back to playing basketball with what you have. And I just don't know what the Lakers could really do. They already have enough of a burden of trying to get the team back on track to where they were. Obviously, with 49 wins, they were on a really great pace to break 60. Now you're trying to get them back going. You've already introduced a Dion Waiters. You've let go of a Troy Daniels who wasn't really that big of a deal. You're still trying to figure out what to do with Kuzma. You just got Morris in there who's making contributions. I know they want another shooter, but I think right now, more than ever, I think right now they're more set on keeping this collective alive, doing what they can with this, and then making the run towards the championship. And truth be told, now that we're back in the vacuum again, let's just assume everybody is a 0-0 record. I think the Lakers have proven that they have enough to win a championship. The way that we handled revenge season was absolutely phenomenal, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Another game that was a favorite of mine was our Miami road win. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth between the comments and this. But once again, if you're getting in here late, we're talking about the top 5 games that I feel like were definitive for the Lakers season this year so far in the 49 wins. But the Lakers win in Miami, in LeBron's old stomping grounds, and the land where he learned how to become a leader underneath Dwayne Wade's leadership. Of course, Pat Riley in the front office. Eric Spoelstra was coming into his own as becoming a coach. But on that win was tremendous, namely because we were able to give Miami their first home loss. Now, Miami has looked crazy since then. But one thing they was a defensive threat. And then if you guys remember the first half of that game, LeBron had 7 turnovers in the first half of that game. And then he comes out in the second half and he has a 9-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. JaVale had 5 blocks, 10 rebounds. AD had 33 points. And Bron ended up having 12 assists even after 7 turnovers. And that was a definitive point for us as a Laker family, because for us, it was watching a team battle through issues that we were obviously having a horrible first half. On the road, being able to get that win, hand that first loss to the Miami Heat, but still be able to build even though they were having a tough game. And that was a definitive game for us as in regards to being a Laker championship brand, because every championship team that we've known for the Lakers has had to battle through multiple bad halves. And the Lakers had been notorious for having mediocre halves, lukewarm halves. But this one was just a terrible half, especially from LeBron. If you guys remember, he got so frustrated, he just went and sat himself down after his 7th turnover. And then he come out, he got refocused, the team talked to him. And this was the telling part. They asked LeBron, how was he able to get back into it? And he said his teammates talked to him. And they had to remind him and put him on blast. And to know that the culture in that locker room was that LeBron wasn't untouchable, that the other team, the other people on the team, and at that time, Boogie Cousins pulling him over to the side. Boogie wasn't even playing, and saying, hey, you need to get it together. And LeBron coming out and responding to his teammates who didn't gas him up, but they almost, in a sense, rebuked him, chastised this dude back there and was like, man, get it together. And he gets it together, and we end up getting that road win. Definitive win for the Lakers on that game. Now, this is the one that we all remember as Revenge Weekend. And this was, we had already been blown out by the Bucks. We had lost to the Clippers twice. There's a lot of noise, a lot of talk. And everybody who was talking about this was talking about, okay, they'll probably win a game. It'll probably be the Bucks. They probably won't beat the Clippers. The Clippers are deeper. The Clippers are better. The Clippers are yada, yada. And what's amazing to me, and I didn't even realize until I was researching for this show today, was that we held both the Bucks and we held the Clippers to 103 points. Now, by this point in the season, that was a big deal, because 103 points for teams that are who are capable of scoring 120, 130 points, and we held them both to 103 is a big deal. Second part of that was that it was the way that we got it done. So against the Bucks, we were able to really contain Giannis. Of course, he got his points, but him going 10 of 21 was a big deal. And the Lakers still able to get their points, AD with 30 and LeBron with 37 points on that night. And we clinched our playoff berth that night. So there was a lot of things at stake for us that were huge. everybody knew we were going to make the playoffs, but for us Laker fans, we needed to know that it was going to happen because we had seen our seasons just be horrible, and to know that after so many seasons we were able to clinch a playoff berth against the Milwaukee Bucks, who of course had a better record and who everybody was projecting that we would see in the actual finals. We showed that on our home court we are able to handle business, and we did so that game. And then just that a couple days later on that Sunday, we play against the Clippers, who are in our own building, and there had been a lot of noise talking, not necessarily from the Clippers, even though there was a couple of things, but really a lot of it came from the pundits, the media people, and sports analysts talking about how the Clippers were just overall better than the Lakers. And nobody expected the Lakers to be able to win against the Clippers, especially after doing what they did against the Bucks. And we were able to come out, and really that whole game hinged upon Bradley. Bradley came out and got hot, man. He had 24 points to add to AD's 30. And that just, to me, tells me that's where it showed me that this team is able to beat teams. And all it takes to push us over the edge, right? The games that we've lost to other teams is because we didn't have a third person. But if a third person steps up on our team, we're really invincible. And for Bradley to be the one to do that, who's picking up full court on Patrick Beverley, getting in his head, picking his pockets, talking trash, getting texts, right? Being able to put up double digits, getting hot from three, shooting for confidence. LeBron, AD playing their game. That was a tremendous statement. That late in the season, being able to say, listen, I don't know what you thought we were, but we have depth. You just haven't seen it emerge as much since then. So, let me get into this. Have you gotten that Caruso jersey yet, D? I have ordered my Caruso jersey. I don't think it's coming anytime soon, to be honest with you. My mail here in Houston has been extremely slow. I'm still waiting on things that are supposed to be here. As you guys know, I'm getting ready to do a whole new setup for the playoffs, and I can't wait for you guys to see it, but everything's been kind of held up. But please believe, as soon as it comes in, I'll probably wear the Caruso jersey at least every other night when we get back into the season. Let's see, Avery Bradley was out for blood against the Clippers, Laker Metropolis. Absolutely. And that's the statement that we need to hold on to and understand. And even Kuzma, who only put up 11 points that game, he wasn't really doing a tremendous amount of work, or not what we expected from him. But to know that Avery Bradley or a KCP can get hot. And then to know that off the bench you have a Dwight Howard who can come in and give you solid boards, give you solid putbacks, and really knows how to do the dirty work, right? To know that we had all that stuff solidified really made us feel like, and really just kind of proved our point, that we are much better than what people were giving us credit for. And they kept really looking at our record the same way they would look at the Bucks record. Like, yeah, they're winning games, but really when you get in the playoffs, they're just not going to be that great. And the truth is that the last thing you want to see is the Lakers in a 7-game series. And we proved that on that weekend. Of course, we followed that up with a loss by 2 points to the Brooklyn Nets. And that was a trap game, just knowing coming out of those two games and LeBron and AD giving all that they had to try to get that thing done. And you know, it was expected that there was going to be a letdown after a weekend that big. But and while we're in the chat, guys, tell me what you feel like was the game for you where you felt like this is a team that you can believe in. Like, throw it in the chat. I want to know what you guys feel and what you guys think about that. Come on hand. The Nuggets and Jazz back-to-back in December were significant wins as well. I'm so glad that you said that. And I do remember those games, that game that we had. And that was on December 3rd and 4th. And we won 105-96 against Denver in Denver. And then 121-96 against Utah. And at that point in the season, these were still considered teams that were considerable threats in the playoffs. And I think if you want to be honest and pinpoint where everything kind of went wrong for the Nuggets and wrong for the Jazz, because they kind of took a downturn after that, was those two games where we were able to beat them back-to-back on the road. And it was, for me, it was tremendous. Number one, because Davis was our leading scorer. He kind of led the way in a lot of ways on those games. LeBron's always going to be the leader when it comes to, you know, just how we do things in the culture and getting things going. But watching Anthony Davis emerge on the road and do what he did was just tremendous, man. It was just tremendous. And that, I'm so glad you said that. I forgot about that. But those were two heavy, heavy games, especially with that being in December. Right when you get into December is when we really started having an incredible streak. In fact, I think when we got into December, we didn't lose a sec. We lost our first game on the 1st against Dallas, 114-100, but we didn't lose again until the 17th. We went on a winning streak, and that Denver Utah game were the first two games out of that loss. Those were like the fire starters. that got us. And to me, that was a tremendous statement. I'm so glad you brought that up. Bradley picking Beverly's pockets was amazing. It was, and it was oddly satisfying, right? Because we all remember when we had Lonzo. Lonzo came into the league, and Beverly pretty much punked Lonzo, right? I don't think that would be the case now. I think Lonzo has really found himself not only as a man but as a basketball point guard who's able to shoot threes and throw lobs, and he knows his place in the league. Probably not going to be Magic. I don't ever see that happening, but he's a grown man, and him against Beverly is completely different. But we remember how annoying Beverly was and how much he talked. And listen, even after we beat the Clippers, Beverly was still talking. Oh, it's no problem to guard LeBron. After you got, listen, after Bradley cooked you, it wasn't even that LeBron cooked Beverly. Bradley cooked him for 24 and picked his pockets, and it was just satisfying to watch a dog emerge on the Lakers bench, or the Lakers, really just the Lakers roster, because Bradley was starting. But to watch him come in there and just set the tone, and the Clippers were never the same after that. Even after Bradley got that tech, and I don't know if you guys were able to see it, but Frank Vogel was not moved by that tech. He wasn't upset. He wasn't mad. I think internally he didn't want to celebrate it because he didn't want to encourage a second tech. But I know internally he was like, that's exactly what I need him to do. And we all sat there and watched that and was like, dog, that is so incredible to watch, man. And now I'm like, I wish I could see that for 7 games. Or really 4 games. I want to sweep. But I can't wait till we get a chance to see the Clippers in the playoffs so we can shut down that noise. And I think Bradley's going to be a key piece to that. When LeBron had a high-scoring game, Lakers for Life 24-8. Yeah, see, now he had a few of those, right? I'm not really sure how to evaluate LeBron because he just does incredible things all the time, right? One of the things I love about LeBron is that he's become far more active on the scoring side. We see him taking far more threes. And for me, it's not even so much about his high scoring as much as it is when he's getting it going from 3 or when he's being aggressive and getting to the rim. One of my favorite plays of the season was when they were playing Mavs in that OT game, and the Lakers were looking for momentum. Kristaps Porzingis comes down, and I don't know if you guys remember, he kind of like shoved Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis falls. He tries to get to the rim, dribbles the ball off his foot. It's a fast break. LeBron's going down. 3 guys are on him, and he dunks on all 3 of them and literally almost like he moves the rim. Like he almost brings the rim down. And that's where you see that famous picture of him screaming, looking at AD, and he's making that playoff face where he's screaming at the top of his lungs. Like, those are the moments for me. Like, he can score a lot, but it's how he scores that becomes the most beneficial and obviously the most memorable. And there's plenty of pictures. One picture that I'm getting ready to hang up on my wall is LeBron doing the dunk, the Kobe dunk on the breakaway. I think literally on the same night that Kobe had done that on another, or against the same team or something like that. But like, he gives you these moments when he's aggressive and he's doing things and he's scoring, right? He's hitting threes from the half court line, turning and looking at the crowd. Like, those are the moments that just get you so excited about the playoffs. Another game for me would be the game against the Kings after Kobe's passing, just to get things going. Yeah, that was a horrible tragedy to come out of, but it was good to watch the Lakers, make a statement, if you can say that. Once again, we had kind of already postponed the Clipper game on the 28th, and then they lost to Portland when Portland came in. Dame Lillard came in with the spirit of Kobe, apparently, and destroyed us. But when we were able to go on the road, kind of get our bearings back again, and we won 129 to 113. It wasn't a high-scoring game. Davis only had 21 points. It wasn't one of those huge scoring games, but it was a significant one because you could tell that we won in a good fashion, if that makes sense. And we were able to do things that, that reminded us that this team is still great despite the tragedy. And it felt good on that game. You really can't put into words the feelings of that month of January going into February. Nothing felt right. I mean, even when we were winning, it felt good to win, but it just felt right. It felt wrong to win, and Kobe wasn't there, And obviously we hadn't had the memorial service yet that they had at the end of February, but that was one of the most, I think for us guys, I think we're going to talk about that Kobe death and how it affected not just the Lakers play, but our own personal lives for the rest of our lives. My son, I bring this up often, but my son, like, when I got the news, I was crying, and my son's only 5, man. We haven't even had the conversation about death yet. And he didn't know how to process what he was watching me go through. And I was trying to explain to him who Kobe Bryant was, and he just doesn't get it yet, right? He doesn't get it yet, but he will. But he will. And I think for the rest of our lives, we're going to talk about that impact moment. Blake St. Clair, after the fast start to the season, they were legit, but they weren't a championship team to me until they beat the Bucks and the Clippers in the revenge weekend. Absolutely. And to be honest with you, Blake, like I felt it earlier than that, but I completely agree with you and understand that after that weekend, it was undeniable. I think that's the basic thing, right? Like they had a great start, had some weird slumps. You know, we had a pretty bad losing streak at one point. Then we put together some streaks, but we haven't really put together like those 8-9 game streaks like we were doing earlier in the season. But when we beat the Bucks and the Clippers, like that was significant, and that was something that for me, I wanted to gloat about, but really I couldn't really gloat because I'd already in my mind knew that it was possible. I think what was irritating was watching people think it wasn't possible. That was the irritating part. Like, you just gonna discount us, but we were able to do what we had to do that weekend, and that for us was the statement. That was the statement. Regardless of what happens, you know, when we're going forward, we know that weekend showed that we were capable and still are, in my opinion, of winning a championship. When we had a high scoring on blocks. Yeah, we had one of our best games. I can't remember what it was. I'm getting ready to look it up right now. We had a tremendous. It was a block party. And I can't remember when it was. I know it wasn't too late into the season. Oh, it was against the Clippers. We had 20 blocked shots. Yeah. When we beat the Pistons earlier in January 5th. Yeah, that was a crazy game. Being able to put up 20 blocks, man. That I still don't understand why people never gave us just the respect. And I really think that's going to be one of the things we have to look out for going into the playoffs is how teams adjust now to our length. I think now they're kind of, this is like, you know what it feels like? It feels like all of us have been fighting like these rounds, like in a Rocky fight, and now we've had a chance to sit back in our corner and really like say, okay, we know who the opponent is now. And I think a lot of teams in the NBA have taken licks from us, and they've been able to sit back and go, okay, now we know who the Lakers are. And now I think some of these teams are planning right now. I think they're taking their time, evaluating film. You know, the coaches have been drowning in film, just preparing themselves for the teams they're getting ready to go up against and what can they do. When we had that 20-block game, it kind of put people on notice that we're not something to be played with. Lake Show Scoop. This live? Yes, this is absolutely live. Good to see you, Lake Show Scoop. Anacott Mahan, 20 blocks against the Pistons. Yeah. Laker Metropolis, as much as I like the win against the Sixers, but the Sixers team had no Simmons. And to be honest, we had talked about those three games. The Sixers game preceded the Bucks and the Clippers. That whole week was really going to be a heavy week for us, and we marked it on our calendars. Embiid and Simmons were still healthy. Now, obviously, when we won that game, I don't think anybody really counted that as a game that we could celebrate. I think we immediately got past that Sixers game and looked directly at that Bucks game and said, all right, let's get it together. And we had like a 3-day layoff. I think the Sixers were on a Tuesday, and I think we had the Bucks on a Friday. But we were able to kind of look past that game and not really celebrate that. I still think the Sixers are formidable. I still think that they would be a problem for us in a 7-game series if they were to make the finals. I don't ever see that happening. But Embiid's size and Simmons' ability to just drive to the rim obviously gives us fits. We found that out when we went to their house. But I think in a 7-game series we would still be able to beat them. It would just be tough. Okay, it was a good win. Not one that I would call a signature win, but it was a good warm-up winning win, if that makes sense. Like trying to get us ready for the weekend to win. So that week we had 3 wins, and one of those we kind of chucked away because of injuries. But those last 2, the Clippers and the Bucks, those were worth it. Those were absolutely worth it. Listen. Man, I can't believe it's been 45 minutes already. But listen, guys, I want to just talk about what we can expect, okay? And just from you guys have all been reading reports, watching the news. You guys kind of already know where we're looking at. The next step that they've been talking about, that as far as what I was heard of today, was that everybody's on the same accord that they want the season back. So we're not talking about canceling the season anymore. I think that was a huge possibility. But I don't think canceling the season is on the table anymore. You're going to hear a lot of reports about whole teams being cleared of COVID. I think this is what you got to look out for in the news, right? When you start hearing a lot about this, like this team is clear and this whole team has been tested, all of them are symptom free. They're trying to set it up so that when they bring the season back, it's not going to feel like a big culture shock to those who may still be in quarantine. They're trying to set it up to let people know that when this league comes back, it's because we did our proper due to test all those people necessary. Of course, they're going to test officials, and I think they're going to test coaching staff and anybody who's going to be involved with dealing with the team. I think it's a high possibility. I think it's almost inevitable that when they do bring the games back, you're probably going to see the games that they played prior to the playoffs. You're going to see those played without fans in the arena. And I think you may just see the games, like we talked about earlier, it may just look like pickup games just to get them back going and being able to kind of get their weight back up. But I think by the time the playoffs hit, whenever they schedule that out and they get that worked out, the league has to figure out scheduling issues now because there's no way that the playoffs and the finals can stay in their current dates. All of that has to shift now. All of it has to shift, no matter what. Which means that now all of the venues that were going to be used during those times are going to have to be adjusted. And we're talking like there's still bubble teams on the fringe. So if you play, 5 or 6 games at the end of the season, that means a lot for the 8 seeds, and it's going to determine, what venues need to be booked. So you may see a delay between the time that the teams play the regular season out, and they're probably going to play like 5 or 6 games, maybe something like that. And by the time the playoffs start, you're probably going to see a bigger gap than we would normally see because they got to figure out these venues. But this is what I know. They're going to figure out the venues because they want to have people in the building, right? They're not going to play the playoffs with no fans. That's not going to happen. Once again, revenue is king. And as much as we want to watch that, the playoffs are a much bigger deal, and they're going to find a way to get that going. And to be honest, once all this blows over, it would be great to be able to wait until the summertime. Think about this, guys. Instead of us having to wait for summer league in the summer, we're all going to be like excited about basketball again, kind of hitting the summer vacation mood, and we're going to be on a championship run. Everybody's going to be excited, back in buildings. Life's not going to be back to normal, but it'll be better. It'll be probably the most explosive playoffs we've ever had, ever. I mean, can you imagine that first tip-off where people are back in Staples Center again, and everybody's sitting, you're seeing Jay-Z and Jack and all these people sitting courtside, and we're back to playing playoff basketball again. It's going to be explosive. But they're going to wait. They're going to wait that out, and they're going to wait so they can make sure that they can make that happen. So we'll see when that happens. I'm not sure. I do believe, to be honest, that you're looking at least another month before we're able to see anything. And right now, I know it sounds crazy. It's only been 2 weeks since the last game. So I know we're in a rush to get back, but it hasn't even been a month yet. And so, what we want to do in this meantime, man, is do our part. I got to say this again. Do our part. Stay inside. Only leave if you have to leave. And for anybody out there who is, struggling, man, with like maybe your hours have been cut, stuff like that, Laker Nation, this is the time where we're supposed to get together, man, and help support each other, do what we can. If you have local businesses in LA that are delivering food, order from them. Don't worry about these big franchises. Support the mom and pop businesses that are trying to keep going. This is something that they can't afford to hit. Like, this is the time for us to kind of just focus on community, focus on family, because when we come out of this, we're going to be a better city than we were when we went into it. And we already were the best city in the world. So just imagine how great LA is going to be when we get back and the 405 is packed again. We need to have this show once a week during these crazy times. Listen, I'm going to talk about it with the Showtime Forum fan, man. We're all trying to figure out what we can do. A lot of things changed. There was a plan in place, but when here in Texas, they have ordered us to stay inside. In fact, they even, this sounds crazy, they're even paying people $150 out here to report people who go outside and break the stay-at-home rule and the stay-at-room order. So, like, we really staying inside. Unless we really got to get outside and do something, we really staying inside. So I'm not able to go and do the things that I was going to do to prep for the new production stuff. But with all that said, I'm going to get on here as often as possible. Generally, I'm going to get on here as more news comes out, more interviews happen, more updates come in. We're going to jump in and have these conversations. Lakers for feelings on the Clippers leaving the stadium. Oh, leaving the stadium. Lakers for life, 24_8. I'm so glad you said that. Someone did ask me that question about two things. What you said, the Clippers are going to be leaving Staples. That's obvious. We're not going to see that for several years. In fact, I'm not even sure it's going to. It's definitely not going to happen within Kawhi's career. By the time everything gets going and everything is up and they're able to make that move, we're talking 2, 3, 4 years from now. I just don't anticipate Kawhi still being here. Just to be honest with you. I think we're going to beat the brakes off of them enough that they're just going to be like, okay, I need to go find another city. But with that being said, them moving out of Staples Center is going to be tremendous, really. We don't really know what's going on. I mean, Staples has kind of been our home. We moved from the Forum. We moved into Staples. Staples is kind of old now. So you may just see a whole refurbish once they leave. Something that's going to be far more Laker permanent. You know, a lot of stuff that we have is temporary that's able to be moved outside of the statues outside, of course. But they're able to change things up, the floor and all that other stuff. But, you know, I'm looking forward to it. And somebody asked me a secondary question about, you know, we're called Showtime Forum. And a part of it is a play on words with the Lakers being in the Forum. If you've ever been down to the Forum down in L.A. But we're not changing the name. And I responded by saying, basically, you know, they may have the deed to the land, but we have the memories in that building. And so I'm fine with the Clippers buying the Forum. Apparently, they're going to keep it as a secondary venue next to the new stadium they're going to build. Do your thing. It's not going to change anything. If you're coming to LA, it's still our town. Same thing with, you know, moving the Angels to Anaheim and calling it the LA Angels. It's not going to make a difference. It's still a Dodger town. It just, I don't know how else to put it, man. Like, we have our staple teams, and the Lakers have already sewn that up, locked it up. It is what it is. So I'm glad they're getting out of our building. You know, it's great to know that they're going to have their own building, and more power to them, and more power to Steve Ballmer. He obviously deals with a different level of money. He had a huge legal issue and was like, "I'll just give you $400 million for you to go away," and he just basically bought the problem and made it his solution and a secondary source of income for him. So, you know, listen, Smith818, I really miss my homies. When are you coming back home? Listen, man, I just got back from LA burying my moms. But listen, I'm telling you right now, when the Lakers win this chip, we are all going to be out there in Figueroa, and I'm gonna find out a way we could all have a meetup and do the biggest Showtime Forum selfie on God's green earth. But until then, we're gonna hold on to these terrible times, man. It's really rough out there. My prayers and my thoughts are out to everybody out there, man. Really, no joke, man. Like, I'm really, really sincerely praying for all those people, man. Let's make sure that we send out those spirit bombs, man, to all of the health workers that are on the front line doing the work that we don't get to see, staying up late hours, putting themselves in harm's way, and really, and just even to the families that have been affected. We're seeing multiple deaths happen, and a lot of times they're reported for celebrities or people who have obviously some fame and notoriety, but there's a lot of family members that have people that have died from the coronavirus that we just don't know. And so those families deserve to have some time to grieve, and we don't want to just rush things back into sports and forget that people are grieving right now, people are dealing right now, people are tired, fatigued, and mentally drained right now. So we want to just keep them in our thoughts, them in our prayers, and just prepare ourselves that when this all is over, we're going to be the LA that we've always been, LA through and through. And I don't care if I'm in Houston, it's always going to be LA in my heart until the day I die. So once again, I'll see you. Oh man, Lakers Life, we should remodel the Staples Center. We have to remodel that Staples Center. I don't know who's been there lately, but it's time. We need to do some things. Blake St. Clair, but are we gonna need a name change for Showtime Forum? Absolutely not. They may have bought that building, but that building's been a church. I've been to that service. I've been to a church service there before. Nobody cared about that. I went and saw Prince there when he rode a bike around the stadium after a fourth ovation. The Showtime Staple. I doubt that'll happen. Smith818, bro, my condolences, man. No worries, man. I appreciate it. All love. Prayers to you and yours. Thank you. I appreciate it. And prayers to all of y'all. I'm going to cut this live stream off. It's 10:30 out here in Texas. But y'all do well. Listen, tip a cup. Send the spirit bombs out to your people. And make sure that you guys stay safe. And remember, Mamba out, but not forgotten. I'll see you guys on the